Good Wednesday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. A little later in the show, we'll talk about the Cavs-Knicks series, evened at a game apiece. We begin by talking Browns. Kevin Stefanski, several members of the Browns met with the media, part of the offseason voluntary program that's going on out in Berea. Coach Stefanski talked about how different this offense will look and tailoring it to his quarterback, Deshaun Watson.
I think every year you better be different. I think, Jeff, there's things that we've already gone over with the team that are going to be different. And then it's a matter of carving out roles for each of our players. You mentioned Elijah, Marquise, guys that are new to our system. We got to find out what they do well. I have a pretty good feel for it and understanding just based on the players and the tape and that type of thing. But I think part of our job as coaches is to use this spring to find out what really clicks for our players, the skill guys, what clicks for the quarterback, and then you streamline all of that into your offense going into the season. I think for us as coaches, you spend so much time in the offseason studying other teams, studying yourself, studying college football. Great ideas come from all levels of football, high school, college. They're all good plays. I think it ultimately becomes, what can your players own? What can your quarterback own? What can your receivers own? What becomes second nature for them? So while we could draw up 1,000 plays, and we have, it's important that you try to drill down for your players and give them things that they can go practice, things that they can go get really good at.
With that, let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Mary Kay, the skill set of the quarterback is different than it was for the first 11 games last year, and you've added some skilled position players. So according to that, the offense should be a little different.
Oh, yeah, it'll be different. I mean, you will tailor it to the things that Deshaun Watson likes and does really well. And we know that that includes a really strong arm, exceptional arm talent, whereby he's not limited in any way, shape, or form, his dual threat ability, and all of those kinds of things. And now they have fast, twitchy receivers like Elijah Moore. They've got a big guy now, another big guy at tight end in Jordan Akins that serves as a large bodied type of receiver. You've got your vertical stretch guy in Marquise Goodwin. You've got the guys that are coming back in Amari Cooper. He's now all sewn up and feeling better. Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I think he's got a wide array of pass catchers. I think it's a good, strong, deep group, and things should be much better.
What do you think the expectations Kevin Stefanski has for the Browns and Deshaun Watson? And I know you've answered this in your Hey Mary Kay as well.
Well, I think the expectations are the playoffs, and I don't think it's just, going to the wild card round and losing in the first round of the playoffs. Everyone has high expectations for this football team. I asked Kevin yesterday about that, and he said, obviously it is to win the Super Bowl. That's what everybody has to have as their goal at the beginning of the season. So no different for them this year. That's what they're not afraid to talk about and say. And actually, some teams might not be able to actually deliver, but this team has a chance to do that, so they can actually speak about it, with some confidence. So
I know you wrote an article about Deshaun Watson in the offseason and how this is completely different of an offseason for him. Take us through that article and how you arrived at that and what it means, if you will.
Well, the first thing I think that was important in that is that he says he's healthy. And when he's talking about healthy, he's not talking about his arm or his legs or anything like that. He's talking about his, his emotional health, his demeanor, where he's at with all of the off the field stuff. He underwent extensive treatment mandated by the NFL for his off the field issues. And I think what he's saying there is, I'm in a good place. And I think that's important because that was the goal here, was to make sure that the Browns were bringing in a player who was not going to have any problems going forward in terms of accusations, allegations, and misconduct. So, he says he's healthy and in a good place, and that's got to be music to the Browns' ears. That's what they need to hear. That's what fans need to know. And, he's dedicated to bettering himself as a person and a player. And, that's all moving in the right direction.
The other thing that a strength of Deshaun Watson's when he's playing with the Texans, and you kind of heard it in some of the postgame. He has an ability to understand and process stuff really quickly. How big of an advantage will it be that he's going to be in Kevin Stefanski's system? He's going to have training camp. He's going to have preseason games because that's something he's really good at, is quick decisions at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and I think that this year they will put more on his plate in that regard and give him more authority at the line of scrimmage. I've been asking that question a lot, and and Kevin does usually answer that, yeah, in his second year in the system, he will have opportunities to do more things. And I think that was one of the things that, Deshaun was a little surprised about, is that the quarterback didn't have as much say in sliding the protections and doing all the different things that he was used to doing. He is up for it. And I think they will put more on his plate this year. And then just by nature, when you're playing in certain kinds of offenses like, no huddle or whatever, then you are putting a ton onto the quarterback's plate. So I think he will run the show a lot more this season.
Again, I know you've addressed this in a Hey Mary Kay. What role do you think Bill Musgrave will play in the Browns offense? And do you think he can help the in-game type of things with Kevin as well?
Well, I think he's going to be very instrumental in running the offensive meetings and doing some things during the week to take some stuff off of Alex Van Pelt's plate. Alex Van Pelt is going to be focusing on Deshaun Watson as his quarterback's coach, and he's going to need to be devoting a lot of time with him. Those two guys are going to be putting their heads together, not just those two guys, but Joshua Dobbs and Kellen Mond as well. And they're going to be working on the game plan and really digging down into the details and the nuances of the plan. And those guys are going to have a lot of input. The quarterbacks will. And so at those times when he needs to be focusing on those quarterbacks as the head of the quarterback room, because that's what he is going to be, then then Bill Musgrave can oversee the process and make sure that he's getting the big picture on offense and help Kevin with all of that stuff. Because Kevin, of course, has to get the big picture of the whole team. So he will be kind of Kevin's, I think, right-hand man in terms of just sort of like running the show and understanding the details of that whole offensive side of the ball. I mean, of course, you have Jim Schwartz on the defensive side of the ball to handle all that. So I think Bill Musgrave will be sort of almost a de facto offensive coordinator or an assistant offensive coordinator, and he will have a lot to do.
Before we go break, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
It was nice to hear Kevin and Deshaun talk about the up-and-coming season and types of changes to the offense. In my perspective, I don't think that the West Coast style of offense, which is what the offense that we've been running for the past 3 years now, I don't think we're going to leave the West Coast system entirely, but I definitely do think we'll have a variation of the type of West Coast system because, it's up to Kevin and his staff and also Deshaun to really make a system that helps everybody else and benefits them. So, yeah, go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Mary Kay, when you look at it, every offense that has an elite quarterback is tailored to that skill set. And I think that's what Kevin's aim is. Let's make this a Deshaun Watson offense.
Yeah, and I think the thing when you look at this offensive staff, they have a lot of different influences. They've got guys on this offensive staff that have had tremendous success in other places, in other schemes and other areas. So while a lot of them do have a ton of West Coast experience, they also have experience in the numbers system, which was more, what was handed down to guys like Norv Turner and guys like that who Kevin Stefanski worked with in Minnesota. So they've got numbers. They've got the whole Bill Belichick system. Chad O'Shea has Super Bowl rings from working there. You've got a little bit of everything, and I think that they will. I think that they will use the full spectrum of what they have available to them.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Talk a little bit more about expectations for the Browns in 2023. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hey, Dave, Frank from Cleveland. I just want to touch on a few bases. With Deshaun Watson, I wish the national media would get off this guy's back. He played 6 games in 2 years, and Cook wasn't even around the team for months to get any rhythm with them. And I tell you one thing, if you're a gambling man, put some money on him to be comeback player of the year. Only one that could beat him out is DeMarcus Hamlin, the guy that had the heart attack. Number 2, there's a make-or-break season for a lot of people in the Browns organization. Stefanski is on the hot seat this year. I don't care what anybody says. If you don't produce, he's gone. All right, great show, Dave. I love you, brother, and take care.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Mary Kay, Deshaun Watson, certainly, if he has a good year, will be in consideration for that. I don't know about the hot seat. I think as long as the season isn't a complete off the rails kind of deal, I think Kevin Stefanski, they're going to give him the opportunity to figure things out, I think.
Yeah, the leash is not short by any stretch of the imagination. However, in sitting with Jimmy Haslam at the NFL annual meetings, they do have high expectations for this football team, but so does Kevin Stefanski. They all expect to make the playoffs. They all really fully expect to win some playoff games and to go deep into those playoffs. So I think everyone knows what the name of the game is. This is Deshaun Watson's first full season. It's not going to be easy, especially if Lamar Jackson is back with the Ravens, and now he's got Odell Beckham Jr. over there, and you've got the Bengals, who are always going to be really strong, and now you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers really making a lot of noise. So I know it's not going to be easy, but that is the expectation, and I don't necessarily think that that Kevin Stefanski is going to lose his job if they don't make the playoffs, but I think they will look long and hard at it if they don't, to try to figure out exactly what went wrong and where. No one expects that to happen, but nobody's going to be happy if it does.
Again, I know you've addressed this. Hey, Mary Kay, floor and ceiling for the Browns in 2023. What do you think they are?
You know what? I would say, maybe 12 victories is about, maybe what you could possibly expect them to do on the high side. And then, the floor, gosh, it shouldn't get to 8. There's no way they should be only winning 8 games. So I'm going to go more like 9 for the floor. So somewhere in that range is probably where they will be. And obviously it can skew either way outside of those lines, but I would say that's the range.
When you look at the additions in the roster, and we've talked about it probably ad nauseum at this point, but Andrew Berry kind of went out and has addressed a lot of the needs, and he's probably not done yet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's not done. First of all, the whole draft is coming up, which, it's kind of getting overshadowed because, they don't have a first-round pick and they don't have a second-round pick, and it's really hard to get excited and talk about the number 74 overall pick. Really, in past drafts, when they had the number 1 overall pick or, even the number 10 pick, we were never talking about what was happening in the 3rd round heading into it. So, even I find myself, kind of having a hard time getting too fired up about the draft. We will be talking to Andrew Berry about the draft on Friday. in his pre-draft availability. But, it's difficult to try to predict what's going to happen at 74 and 98. But they still do have those 8 picks coming. And then, there could be trades made on that weekend. Andrew Berry loves to engage in the trade market. So if they see something out there they like, they won't hesitate to do it. I think there are some obvious spots where they could use some more help at edge rusher, still at defensive tackle, perhaps even maybe at linebacker, at defensive back. You name it, there are places where you can add some more talent.
There's been some hype locally about the Browns. Do you think fans should buy into that? And it seems like every year, I thought last year they addressed some needs, and we saw that didn't quite go the way we thought it would. But should fans be buying into the hype this year, do you think?
Well, I think so because of Deshaun. With Deshaun playing 17 games, and you have a quarterback of that caliber and all this talent around him, and now with Amari Cooper having the surgery and having that injury behind him, I think there are plenty of reasons to get excited about this football team. Again, it all has to come together. That's a brand new defense, new terminology over there on that side of the ball. And on offense, they're going to be tweaking some things, actually more than tweaking things. It'll be a retool of the offense. There are 3 new pass catchers over there. So there's a lot of new stuff coming in, and, it might take a while to figure it all out. I mean, again, just to hear Amari Cooper talk yesterday about, I've got to get with Deshaun and understand the scramble drill and where he's going with this whole thing and where I need to be and what I need to do. That's going to be very important. It will probably be a work in progress in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, but they don't have a whole lot of time to try to figure things out on the fly.
So I know you've answered this, and I think it's a tough question to answer. But I'm going to ask it to you anyway. What would constitute a successful season, do you think, for the Browns in 2023?
Oh, I think it's got to be winning at least one playoff game. I mean, again, they can't go through all of this and then bow out in the wild card round. That's not going to cut it. I mean, they really have to be contending to try to get to that AFC championship game at the very least. It's hard to get to the Super Bowl. The AFC alone is just so incredibly difficult. Think of all the quarterbacks that you would have to try to get past to get into the Super Bowl. It's just really, really hard. Of course, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it's going to be hard, but I don't think that just making it to the playoffs is enough. They need to win a couple of games.
All right, before we go to break, we've said we think that they're not done adding to the roster. Do you think there's another big trade, or do you think it's more tweaking kind of thing?
I think it's probably more tweaking kinds of things. I don't think there's a big trade. I think if that were going to happen, it probably would have already happened. Although some things like that do happen on draft weekend and right after the draft when teams have what they need at certain positions. But I don't know. Maybe we'll get a better feel for it when we talk to Andrew on Friday. But I don't think they have a super huge move up their sleeve.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear from Myles Garrett getting ready to play in that wide 9 scheme. We'll hear what he thinks. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Take a look at this. Last season, Myles Garrett, #1 in pass rush win rate, 25.6% pressure win rate. Was also 10th in the NFL in total pressures, and that was without some help. Imagine Jim Schwartz's 9-wide scheme, the help in free agency. Myles Garrett was asked about playing in Jim Schwartz's 9-wide, as well as playing next to Dalvin Tomlinson yesterday.
I think it's something I've done naturally. I don't think it's something I really thought about. It's just, my natural width and angle at a 9 technique, and he might tune it up a little bit, just to be a little bit more detailed towards what he wants. But I mean, the guys get the most out of it. They're able to keep the edge, make plays in the backfield, just because in the 6 technique it's kind of hard. Sometimes you get that tackle doubling you. Sometimes they're trying to fan you, guys trying to reach you. You don't know what to expect. At a 9, it's pretty much like playing a 5 that you're going against a tight end. And I like my matchup against every tight end. We got 2 of them. I mean, Jordan can do it. Dalvin can do it. We got a couple of guys who, if they get going, they start moving forward and getting off the ball. They can eat up a double team. They can get off blocks and make TFLs and cause chaos in the backfield. So Dalvin is very impressive. He has a nice resume himself. So looking forward to the opportunity to work with him. And from how he speaks and how much he's looking forward to the opportunity, I think we'll be able to make something really good happen.
Mary Kay, we were listening to Myles talk yesterday, and he's already excited to get things going with this style of defensive line play.
Yeah, any defensive lineman that you talk to that has ever played for Jim Schwartz, they absolutely love it. They love having played for him because he knows how to feature those guys, how to focus on those guys, how to get them going forward. And really, letting the dogs eat, so to speak. So I think it's going to be a really nice season for Myles Garrett. I think he's also going to have that help that we've talked about on the inside, on the outside. I think they'll move him around. I think they'll be very multiple up front. He'll be multiple. And I think that he will really shine in this defense.
So Kevin Stefanski, I know, was asked about this. What did you make of the Perion Winfrey situation? And we both heard what Kevin said. What's your read of that?
Well, I think they are. I think they're taking their time and letting the legal system play out a little bit. What they're not doing right away is coming out and saying, we absolutely, unequivocally, 100% stand by him. We haven't heard that. What I do know is that he has not been at the offseason program. He's wearing an electronic monitoring device right now. That doesn't mean he can't be at the offseason program, but the timing just isn't right now while everybody sorts through what they want to do. So they're taking their time. They're going to give it, just what it needs. And they're doing their due diligence. And his next court date is June 1st. The mandatory minicamp is June 6th through the 8th. So they need to decide by then, probably, are they going to bring him in for the minicamp and get him rolling with this team? Or are they going to let him kind of, figure things out a little bit? Does he need to step away from the game for a little period of time and get some things together? So these are all things that are being discussed right now.
All right. 3 players the Browns could trade for on draft night. This from Dog Pound Daily, and these are all defensive players. They say Josh Allen, edge rusher from the Jaguars. Number 2, Kevin Bayard from safety from the Titans, and number 1, Khalil Mack, edge rusher from the Chargers. My thought of all those is I don't think those are the kind of acquisitions they would make. Those likely would cost a whole lot more than I think the Browns are probably willing to trade for.
Yeah, I don't really know what they have up their sleeve at this point. But once again, they don't have a first-round pick again next year, so they have to be very judicious and careful with their draft capital, and they also have to be careful with their salary cap. I mean, you've got three guys in double-digit cap hits this year in Amari Cooper, Myles Garrett, and Denzel Ward. You've had to already restructure Deshaun Watson to add some players. And, they just have to really be careful about how they are managing the cap. So, they'll do what they can to add talent, and they'll find a way, and they can clear space when they need it. But not really sure right now they're going to go for like a really big, expensive guy.
All right. Before I let you go, some talk has surfaced about renovating Cleveland Browns Stadium. It's still really early in the process. What do we know, and what have you heard about that?
Well, I sat with Jimmy and Dee Haslam at the NFL annual meeting in March, and, they talked all about the renovation that they want to do in conjunction with the city and the county, and how it marries up with the renovation of the waterfront, and how they want to connect, the malls in Cleveland with the waterfront, and how the stadium will be a huge key part of that. And I've actually seen some of the, preliminary plans of what the stadium would look like, and fans would absolutely love it. It's gorgeous, but, you have to get to that point where, you have to figure out, how it's going to get paid for, and, where is the funding going to come from? And there are a lot of hurdles to cross, but I think, that's the goal for everyone. The Browns, the city, the county, and the state is to try to get this thing done.
And the other thing is it's still way too early to know. We've gotten a lot of emails and questions. If they're going to be able to play when they're renovating it, if they would have to move, those are all to be determined still, correct?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I haven't heard anything about them, where they would be going or what the situation would be there. So, yeah, it's a little bit early to try to sort that one out.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. As always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Mary Kay.
Thanks for having me.
Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you check her out. Always great Browns coverage. Pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we turn our attention to the Cavaliers. Evened up the series with the Knicks at a game apiece. Sam Amico from hoopswire.com straight ahead. We're talking Cavs on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Sports4CLE continues. We turn our attention to the Cavaliers. A much-needed win in Game 2 to tie things up at a game apiece. J.B. Bickerstaff talking to his team in the locker room after a Game 2 win.
Real quick, and then we'll get you guys out of here. That's a way to respond, right? Understanding the moment, okay? Taking a lesson, learning our lesson, and then applying all the things that we talked about. The effort that you guys put in on the defensive end of the floor was phenomenal. Okay? That was textbook Cavaliers defense. And then the offensive end of the floor, we shared it, we attacked the paint, we got what we wanted. Okay? That was a phenomenal job.
Let's welcome in Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Sam, I had said when we were talking yesterday that the Knicks out-Caved the Cavs in Game 1. They didn't do it in Game 2. Cavs did the things that they had done all season long, especially on the defensive end of the court.
Yeah, that was probably, not only the way that the Cavs have been playing all season long, but maybe even a little bit better once you got into the second quarter. It's in terms of defense. The first game, what we saw, the difference was the Cavs defended okay in game one. They just didn't do the little things at the end of that defense, and namely rebound. And you could see their determination right away in making sure there wasn't a repeat of the Knicks dominating the boards. And it seems like the Cavs even stepped up their defense a little bit more. They matched the Knicks physically, which was, I'm sure, a big talking point for the coaching staff after game one is we've got to be more physical. We've got to be more rugged. And then the rest will come to us. Well, guess what we saw? Game two looked like an extension of game one with the physical play. It was kind of a grinded out thing. The Cavs were struggling, but eventually they kept with it. And eventually they broke through that. And it resulted in, a lot of easy baskets for them, and not just transition, but just a lot more energy offensively. So it was really the way the Cavs are used to playing most of the season, and did not let the Knicks being physical impact them at all in game two.
The other thing that happened, Darius Garland had an outstanding game, got after it and led the team in scoring, had like 24 in the first half and continued it. Garland talked about his play in game two.
It's a roller coaster in this league. Sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a bad day. So just responding like this and having everybody just come around me and just tell me to go be aggressive, go shoot the shots that I shoot. It meant a lot to me, just to be on this stage and just have the confidence of my teammates and my coaching staff just all behind me. So it's a good feeling right now.
And Donovan said he kind of saw like a look in your eyes at one point, and just kind of a change in you. Did you feel that kind of like after a couple shots started to go down, like, okay, I'm going?
Yeah. When I seen the first couple fall, I knew it was going to be a good night. So that's when they just told me to keep shooting it, see what happens. So that's what I tried to do tonight. And my team has just got me involved. We just tried to make the right play every time, and it just resulted in a couple makes.
Sam, what was, in your mind, keys to what the Cavs did in game two to really put the Knicks away pretty early?
First of all, it always starts with the Cavs defense. They've been playing playoff-style defense for the majority of the regular season. So the fact that they were able to continue to do that, to me, was the number one factor, and as well as do a much better job on the board. So, and then obviously number two, and maybe 1A, is the play of Darius Garland, and just the way he got going. After struggling in the second half of game one, really couldn't get anything going. The Knicks blitzed him a lot, put a longer defender on him, or a longer second defender on him to make his life difficult in game one. In game two, he was able to overcome that. They paid more attention to Donovan Mitchell. Well, credit to Donovan Mitchell for ending up with a career playoff high 13 assists, and a big credit to Darius Garland for, just staying aggressive and not letting game one hold him back very much. And then obviously, Caris LeVert, the Cavs desperately needed something in reserve, especially with Isaac Okoro struggling, played just 3 minutes of game two. Caris LeVert with a huge night, and, the Cavs are going to need more of that to, emerge from this series.
Yeah, and along those lines, here's what you're talking about with LeVert. 24 points, 4 rebounds, 4 3-point field goals made. That's the highest scoring playoff game off the bench for a Cavalier since Channing Frye. So that's going back quite a ways. But yeah, he or Cedi Osman has to come through and score pretty much one or the other every game if the Cavs are going to do what they need to do in this series.
Yeah, at least one of them, because you're going to presumably get what you always get from Donovan Mitchell. Darius Garland's now comfortable in the series, it looks like. Evan Mobley, I thought, is getting more comfortable, showed that last night, was not intimidated by Julius Randle or the Knicks' physicality. And Jared Allen's going to do what he always does, which is, you look at the box score, you don't think he's done a whole lot, and then you see he's put up another double-double. And so that leaves somebody else, presumably off the bench, where you can get that spark. In game one, it was Josh Hart for the Knicks who gave a big spark. In game two, Karis LeVert for the Cavs. So we're seeing how that goes. When one team gets a nice spark off the bench, that team has won each game. So, yeah, it's either going to have to be LeVert or Chetty or somebody else that really gets going, whether, maybe Isaac Okoro gets another opportunity to play extended minutes, and he'll be that guy. So, but the Cavs definitely need that just because, they have so many weapons. It's nice if they all play well together as they did in game two.
The other thing that happened, Danny Green got significant minutes. He played 20, and he was a factor. He made, I think it was 1 or 2 3-pointers, had another one that he knocked down, but it stepped out before he took the shot. But that's a role he can excel in, and I mean, that can get you a game in a series.
For sure. And, the one thing just watching Danny Green that impressed me when I watched him wasn't, him hitting the 3-pointer, which was nice for him and for the crowd, him getting in early in the game after not playing at all in game one. I just saw him make normal, basic, veteran basketball plays, feeding Mobley in the post, keeping the ball moving, doing the smart thing that's never going to show up on, the stat sheet. It didn't result in assists, didn't result in a lot of points or rebounds. He just made the smart basketball play to keep things moving, to calm things down, which is what veteran winners tend to do. And I suspect we're going to see a lot more of him in this series in those 15 to 20 minute range. Game two, 20 minutes. And yeah, he's not going to go out there and make a big splash, but he can make a difference just by being a veteran player, with multiple championships who can really help you in terms of doing the little things. And so often a series comes down to who does the little things better.
Well, the other thing that happened, Donovan Mitchell, in this, something that you tweeted out, finished with 17 points, a career playoff high, 13 assists. Can't go wrong there, not when the Cavs are winning in a rout. J.B. Bickerstaff talked about Donovan Mitchell's game and how important it was.
It just shows what type of person he is and what type of leader he is. He understands that in order for us to be our best, everyone's going to have to be at their best. And what he did tonight was make sure that everybody had belief and that everybody played to their strength. And when they had it going, he could have very easily decided it was time for him to take shots, but he didn't. He made sure those guys kept going so they could keep that confidence.
Sam, when I'm watching Donovan Mitchell, he reminds me a lot of LeBron James, just in that he can impact the game when he's not scoring. He doesn't feel the need to... He wants to do whatever it takes to win, and he usually makes the correct basketball play.
Yeah, so often you would think when watching game one, you thought, boy, he just about scored 40 points and they still didn't win. Is he going to have to score 50? But what he really showed in game two is, no, that's not necessary. And Mitchell is. He's a guy who's going to do what it takes to win. Garland had the hot hand. LeVert had the hot hand. The Knicks were playing Mitchell, giving him different looks in terms of defense. So it resulted in other guys getting hot, and Mitchell just delivering the ball to him, which, yes, that's very LeBron James-like in the sense that, these guys have got it going. I can work almost as a decoy now, and here you thought he's going to have to score 40 or 30 or at least 20 for the Cavs to win. Well, guess what? He had 17. So I thought that was a big statement in terms of the other guys and Mitchell having confidence in them and getting them the basketball and not letting it, didn't force a thing, just played winning basketball And that's a great sign for the Cavs moving forward in this series.
Sam Amico and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we turn our attention to Game 3, which will be in Madison Square Garden. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back talking Cavs. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Cavs with Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Donovan Mitchell, New York native, going back to Madison Square Garden. Series tied at a game apiece. Mitchell on what the Cavs need to do in Game 3.
Just make the moment about what we do, and understanding that it's going to be loud, it's going to be crazy, it's going to be fun. At the end of the day, you want this as a competitor, but understanding that the performance we put together tonight, we didn't even have to shoot this well for us to win this game. Like, we just played well defensively, and I think that was my biggest message, is that yes, we shot well, we did a lot of different things, but we played really solid defense, holding them to 90 points, 101 the other night. That's what it's going to take for us to, continuously get these wins over and over again.
And Sam, Madison Square Garden will be crazy, but this is the type of thing that the Cavs need to experience. Playoff basketball in that venue is even a little bit different than anywhere else.
Yeah, Donovan just said what I've been preaching here for the past few weeks about the defense. If their defense is, they play that Cavaliers style of defense, they're going to give themselves a shot in that kind of environment. It will be the first time. We had the first Cavs playoff series, started last week. Now this week they get to experience their first playoff series for so many of these young guys on the road, and not just on the road, but in a historic basketball arena in Madison Square Garden, where everybody, tries to play their best, because if you do something special in New York, it sticks around for a while. So, and it does boil down to what Donovan Mitchell just said. Play the Cavaliers style of basketball, their style of defense. And they did that for the second half of Game 1 and the majority of Game 2. And look what it did. It kept the Knicks under 100 points. So, and that 90 points is the second lowest point total in Knicks playoff history, which really says something when you think about the 90s and the Pat Riley era, when all their games were like 92-90 in the playoffs then. So I think that Mitchell's absolutely right. If they continue to play defense like they have in the first two games, the Cavs will be in good shape.
So now this becomes, in essence, best of 5 series. New York has home court advantage. But take a look at this. This is I found this really interesting. The Knicks actually have a better record on the road than they do at home. 24-17 away from Madison Square Garden, 23-18 at home. And you see the Cavs, the reverse of that, without question, a home court advantage. And again, it comes down to defense in any sport, even in playoff basketball. Defense travels much better than offense does.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you play on the road, your shooting gets impacted a little bit. Just being in a different venue, you don't have the same type of energy that you're going to have. It's just human nature that you would at home. So, obviously, if you can keep the other team from scoring easily and make all of their baskets difficult, or the majority of their baskets difficult, it's going to wear them down a little bit, make things easier for you. So, you want to take that approach at home, but you definitely have to take it on the road. And the stat we just saw, the Knicks are not, they're not this force in Madison Square Garden. They haven't been all season. So, that's something that works in the Cavs' favor. And, they always say in order to get to the next round in most situations, almost every year in the playoffs, we've seen it historically, you're going to have to win a game on the road. So, the Cavs don't absolutely have to get game 3, but if they don't get game 3, they better get game 4, because otherwise you're in a lot of trouble. So, all you need to do is go there and split, then it becomes a best of 3 series, and then you have 2 games of those at home. And that's really what you're trying to do. Obviously, you'd love to win both in New York, but at worst case scenario, you got to get 1.
When you look at keys to game 3, what do you think? If you see this, what do you think? Okay, they're doing pretty well as far as the Cavs go.
Yeah, the first thing is playing, coming out, playing with a lot of energy, keeping things close early. You don't want to get behind like they did in game 1 where they fell behind by double digits and we're playing catch up the rest of the way. And then, going into the third quarter of game 1 down 78-70, you don't want those kind of deficits, because then you wear yourself out trying to come back. So, if they can keep it close and just play with a lot of energy. Again, don't get down if the shots aren't falling. As Donovan Mitchell said, just continue to stick to your defensive principles, do the work on the boards, make the Knicks, make them have to battle for their baskets, not getting easy layups. Sometimes we see, and it happens to every team, we'll see the Cavs give up 3 or 4 straight easy layups in a row. At least we did in game 1. And, that's something you got to avoid, because then all of a sudden the home team gets the momentum, the crowd's going nuts, and that's a lot to overcome. So, the key is to keep it close, keep the Knicks on their heels, keep them thinking, and, play with a lot of energy at the defensive end. Offensively, you got to have somebody besides your big 4 step up. But defensively, if things aren't working out on offense, you can still make a game of it just by being focused on defense and doing what you've done all regular season.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would say, if you keep the game close, Donovan Mitchell, and this is no disrespect to Julius Randle or Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell is still the best player on the court. And if you keep it close, you like the team that has the best player, and he's the best player in this series.
So oftentimes we see that in the NBA, is that guys who are the team that has the best player on the court ends up winning a series, unless the rest of his teammates are pretty bad. And guess what? Donovan Mitchell's teammates are pretty good. So you would think that based on history, the Cavs would still have the edge here, even though they lost home court advantage, simply because, Brunson, Randall, those guys are very good. Donovan Mitchell's better. And, Darius Garland was better in game 2 than Brunson. And Karis LeVert was better in game 2 than Josh Hart. And Evan Mobley played Randall just about even. So, those things are if all else being even, you have the best player, you got a great shot. And the Cavs do that with Mitchell.
Sam Amico, hoopswire.com, as always. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Sam.
All right, Dave, thanks for having me, and hold on to your hats. Here comes Madison Square Garden.
I'm sure we'll check in with you next week. Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. Make sure you check him out. Great stuff on the Cavs and all things NBA. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we're talking Guardians prospects, a look at a couple of guys that are tearing it up on the mound down in AAA. Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Clippers, joins us. Sports4CLE. He'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues. We turn our attention to baseball and Guardians prospects. A couple of guys doing really well down in AAA. Let's welcome in Ryan Mitchell. He is the voice of the Columbus Clippers. Ron, appreciate the time. Let's start out with Tanner Bibee. That's a guy who's kind of burst onto the scene in AAA this year. Not a lot of people knew him, although he was top 100 in baseball. Getting ready to make his third start of the year tonight down in Columbus, correct?
Yeah, he'll start tonight against the Toledo Mud Hens, and this Mud Hens team is a pretty good hitting group. They don't strike out a ton. They'll take their walks. They've got some powers really up and down the lineup. It was a team that came into the series yesterday with wins in 5 out of their last 6 games. They were rained out on Sunday against Louisville, but they can really hit. They've got some pitching, but it's going to be a good test for Bibee because in his first 2 starts, he's not allowed to run. Bibee has gone, 11 innings now, 5 hits, no runs allowed. Yep. Good mix, fastball, curveball, slider change. The velocity has played up really since becoming a professional from where he was in the college ranks. A guy that locate, and then as he became a professional, throws a little bit harder. And, we've heard that story before. And I don't want to compare him to a Cy Young Award winner, but sort of the same track that Shane Bieber took coming from the college ranks into the professional game, being able to command all of his pitches and then becoming a harder thrower to complement that really did a good turn for him. And so far for Bibee, it's done the same thing at the AAA level.
So it'll be his third start tonight, and you mentioned some of the numbers. The other thing that is impressive, and it seems like all of the prospects that the Guardians develop are this way, 3 walks, 15 strikeouts in those 11 innings pitched in his 2 starts. And you saw high heat. There's some life to that fastball in the mid to upper 90s. In AAA hitters hitting $132 against him. Those are all check marks.
Yes, yeah, they certainly are. In his last start, when the Clippers were on the road taking on the Worcester Red Sox, during his start, it was interesting to me. The Clippers had a huge offensive performance, and each of his first 3 innings going out onto the mound, as the visiting team, you bat first, so he had to sit in the dugout during the top of the first inning while the Clippers were busy scoring 4 runs. Then they scored 5 runs in the second inning, and they scored another crooked number in the third. So he had to sit down for about 20 minutes each time, and when he came back out to the mound, he struggled a little bit with his command to the very first batter because it had been such a layoff, but then he found it. And in each one of those cases, he got right back to work after getting the feel back for his fastball and dominated all those innings. And that's not easy for a pitcher to do, to sit down for that length of time and time again. You always love the run support, of course, as a pitcher, but you also want to be in a rhythm. And it took him a minute to find that rhythm, but once he did, there really wasn't anything the AAA Red Sox could do against him.
So Bibee, 24 years old, another 24-year-old that's kind of doing really good things as well at AAA. Logan T. Allen, not the Logan Allen who was up with the Guardians before. He's made 3 starts and no record yet, but again, same kind of MO, not giving up a lot of runs, striking out a lot, and not giving up a lot of hits.
Yeah, and if you can do those things, you're going to be a pretty good pitcher, right? I mean, there's no mystery. If you keep the other team off the board, and that's what he's done. His changeup is outstanding. He came up last year, and Logan Allen really struggled. I mean, he only went 2/3 of an inning in his first AAA start, and that happened to him again later on in the year. As the year went along, you started to see maybe the confidence build a little bit. His last start in 2022 was very good for the Clippers, and he has picked up right where he left off with 3 outstanding starts, 2 combined earned runs allowed. He's striking out a lot of batters. Fastball 92, 93, but a very, very sharp slider and a devastating changeup when he sets it up properly and executes it. So when he came up last year, you were kind of thinking, okay, maybe this is a guy who's going to get to the higher levels and is going to see more mature hitters who don't chase quite as much. But he has developed and he has continued on that track to where he looks like absolutely a viable candidate to be one of those, if needed, called upon by the Guardians, where he can go up and give you a quality outing. You mentioned no record. He hasn't pitched deep enough into games. 80 pitches his last time out. That's about where they've kept him in his first 3 starts. So as he gets more and more stretched out, gets deeper into ball games, he'll start racking up the wins with quality starts like he has had.
Yeah, 14 1/3 in those 3 starts, just 10 hits, 2 earned, 5 walks, 20 strikeouts, 189 is the average against. What stands out? Left-handed, which kind of opens my eyes up. What kind of separates him from what you have seen last year to this year?
Well, I think confidence is key, and also execution. He was throwing a lot of pitches. That's why he only went 2/3 inning. It's not that he was getting knocked around necessarily. It's just that the pitch count got so high you couldn't, they're not going to let a guy throw 30, 35 pitches in an inning who was a prospect on the come. So just command of those pitches. The fastball is good. And again, it's not a high velocity from a left-hander. It's going to be 93, occasionally 94 with the fastball. But knowing how to pitch and executing those pitches, I think, has been the difference for him this year. He is, throwing the same arsenal. He's just doing it better this year, and it's paying off for him.
So Guardians made a move before their game with the Tigers today. They recalled Brian Rocchio, sent Hunter Gaddis down to AAA. Now, they have an off day tomorrow, so they'll skip Gaddis's turn in the rotation. He may be coming back up, or they may do something else. I want to talk a little bit about Rocchio. What have you seen from him? We saw Tyler Freeman come up and have a couple of hits, another guy that started the year out, and then he got banged up a little bit towards the end of that game, first game of the doubleheader yesterday. What have you seen from those two guys in the early season?
Well, before Freeman's recall, he was just hitting everything in sight, and there were no bleeders or 17 hoppers. Everything was well struck from Freeman, and going crazy on the bases, already 5 steals. You worry about him a little bit because he gets hit by more pitches than anybody I have ever seen. He's already been hit by 7 pitches this year. He has more career hit by pitches than walks, and he doesn't crowd the plate. So it's just one of those anomalies. And when a guy gets hit a lot, obviously there's injury potential. That didn't have anything to do with what happened in the doubleheader. He was playing defense at the time, but boy, he was playing with a ton of confidence. He didn't hit well in spring training, and once the season started here, things got going for him pretty well. He had a stretch where over 2 days against Worcester, he had a total of 9 hits and reached base 10 times in those 2 games. So he was striking the ball with authority. He doesn't have a ton of power, but he's got gap power, and he's already hit a couple of home runs for the Clippers this year. So, you hope that he's healthy and he can contribute up there with whatever time is allotted to him. He was called up as a replacement for Eniel De Los Santos, who was on the paternity list. So that's a short-term recall. Now with both he and Rocchio up there, assuming that they're both healthy, the Guardians will have an interesting decision to make. Rocchio, they're both middle infielders, and they've been playing back and forth between second base and shortstop for the Clippers. But, we saw Rocchio a little bit at the end of last season, showed more power last year than he has this year with a few home runs at the end of the AAA season. But this is a guy that can hit from both sides of the plate, switch hitter that has looked good from both sides. Defensively, you can put him on either side of second base, and he's going to do a good job. And he likes to run a little bit, too. He's driving in runs. He's getting on base. I think there's a lot to like. Now, he's also very young. Freeman's very young, 23, and Rocchio is even younger than that. So it's going to take time. These are both players who are in the developmental stage of their career, but they can contribute. And obviously, the Guardians have enough confidence in them that when you need somebody on the roster at this time, there's somebody that you can call up. So that's a good sign for Guardians fans. All
right, before I let you go, give me the name of a couple of guys to listen out for that could come up and help. I'm guessing bullpen they've been using their bullpen like crazy because the starters aren't getting deep enough. Who are some guys that could help out in the bullpen with the Guardians down from AAA?
Caleb Berriger's looked very good. I mean, one of the challenges to your question is none of them are on the 40-man roster. Yesterday, with Connor Pilkington in the major leagues as the 27th man for the doubleheader, and Gaddis still in the major leagues, the Clippers, for the first time I can ever remember, did not have a pitcher on the 40-man roster. So that's a challenge. If you need to bring somebody up, you're going to have to find a way to make some moves. Now, fortunately for the Guardians, they have guys that can give you length. Xavier Curry did that yesterday, so you probably don't have him available today, but Eli Morgan can give you some length as well. But I think Caleb Berriger is a guy who's looked very good out of the bullpen. He allowed a run yesterday for the first time. It was unearned, so his ERA is still 0. Michael Kelly has looked good for the Clippers at time. Daniel Norris has actually spot started now 3 different times on bullpen games for the Clippers and has looked pretty good from the left side as well. So there are options. There are a lot of guys with major league time. But again, it's a challenge because they're not on the 40-man roster.
Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Columbus Clippers. As always, man, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much, Ryan.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right, Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Clippers, telling us some things to keep our eye out for. Tanner Bibee and Logan T. Allen looking really good down in AAA. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.